For years, some of the poorest communities in this country have complained that they were being asked to absorb disproportionate levels of immigration and asylum accommodation. They were told to be more tolerant. But now, a major shift is happening. The government has announced a new principle: everybody must play their part. Suddenly, quite wealthy, middle class communities are discovering something incredibly uncomfortable. Immigration policy is no longer happening somewhere else. It is coming directly to their doorsteps in places like the tiny village of Piddington in Oxfordshire. Proposals are on the table to house up to 1,200 asylum seekers next to a community of just 350 adults. Welcome to the new reality of Britain's asylum system. Hello everyone and welcome back. Today, we are breaking down a monumental shift in the United Kingdom's immigration and asylum strategy. We are moving away from the abstract debates happening in Westminster and looking at the very real localized impacts of this policy. Why is the government suddenly looking to leafy, affluent villages to solve the asylum housing crisis? And what does this mean for the future of British communities? We have gathered the latest data and insights from recent policy updates to give you the full picture. The catalyst for this change comes directly from the top. Recently, Prime Minister Andy Burnham made headlines by stating unequivocally that we cannot have a situation where it is only the poorest communities in the country that receive all of the dispersal of refugees and asylum seekers. As reported by news outlets like Azertec and the BBC, Burnham's strategy aims to end what he calls HMO Britain. For a long time, asylum contractors naturally gravitated towards areas where accommodation was cheap. This meant that lower income urban areas, often in the north, bore the absolute brunt of the housing pressure. Poorer communities experienced the strain on their local resources, healthcare and infrastructure, while wealthier areas remained largely untouched by the crisis. Now the government's solution is redistribution. Immigration Minister Anna Turley recently stated on BBC Breakfast that this is fundamentally a matter of fairness. According to official figures, the government aims to drastically reduce the reliance on expensive hotel accommodation. The number of asylum hotels peaked at 400 under the previous administration, but the current plan is to shut them all down by 2029. Doing so reportedly saves the taxpayer £1 billion. However, the people housed in these hotels have not simply vanished. They are being moved to alternative, secure sites which include former military bases, student accommodations, and former industrial sites scattered around the country. And this is where the massive pushback begins. Let us look at Piddington in Oxfordshire. It is a hamlet that has existed since the Domesday Book. The residents recently voted to stage a symbolic referendum on leaving the UK in protest. Why? Because placing 1,200 men beside a hamlet of a few hundred adults fundamentally changes the fabric of that community. Local councils and residents are raising severe alarms about basic infrastructure. They are asking how the local water supply, sewage systems, and electrical grids are supposed to handle a population explosion of over 300% overnight. We are seeing a similar story unfold up north at the former RAF base in Leighton-Dewes in Yorkshire. People who moved to these tranquil villages, assuming the issue of large-scale military base convergence was off the table, are now facing the reality that national policy has arrived back in their backyard. According to immigration policy analysis from Davidson Morris, while Burnham's administration is retaining a strong emphasis on border control and reducing net migration, the logistical challenge of housing remains immense. The government is continuing its work on the Immigration and Asylum Bill, which aims to reform appeals and irregular migration routes. But critics, including Shadow Home Secretary Chris Phil, argue that redistributing people to wealthier areas does not solve the root of the problem. They argue the focus should be on rapid processing and deportations rather than deciding which postcode should absorb the numbers next. The entire situation forces a critical national conversation when people advocate for open borders or boast about their tolerance from a distance. It is easy to support policies that do not affect their daily life. But when a facility is 3 times the size of your village is proposed next door, the theoretical support is suddenly tested? It is simply NIMBism, not in my backyard, or are these communities raising valid, logical concerns about infrastructure, safety, and lack of consultation? The reality is the demographic pressures on the UK are immense, and the asylum backing still consists of tens of thousands of individuals waiting for their claims to be processed. As the government moves forward with these new sites, the middle classes finally experience what poorer towns have dealt with for over a decade. It remains to be seen if this strategy of shared burden will lead to a more sustainable system or if it will simply ignite unrest in every corner of the country. Thank you so much for turning into this deep dive into the UK's shifting asylum landscape. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Should every part of the country be expected to share the load, or is the government fundamentally mishandling the situation? Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update on this critical issue. And before you go, please remember to consult with an expert lawyer regarding any specific immigration or legal matters. Do not use contact information from this video, as we are providing just information.